And just a message for you all, a mention for you all. If you have a question for me or any of the panelists in a little while, put it into the chat box. Heather's going to be looking out for them. But if you could just mark it or flag it with a bit of the word question before you start your question, or the letter Q, then that would be really useful, and we can spot those and get to them later. So we've seen a question already from PH167584. Hi. How does simply chairing a Zoom call differentiate from moderating a panel? Yeah, I can get onto that in a little while. So thank you for that question. Let me share with you 3 top tips then for moderators. There are loads of tips, loads of techniques you can use as well. But let me share 3 with you now before we get into the panel discussion. So number 1, when you get asked to moderate a panel, get involved right from the get-go. Don't wait for the event organizer to send you things or ask you to have a meeting, or, don't wait. Be really proactive and make suggestions for the topics to be discussed. And even the panelists, like Carolyn was just saying there, that she could suggest the panelists and the lineup, especially if you're worried there's not much diversity on that panel, and get under the skin of the topic. So begin to research and prepare. And the second, slightly bigger tip actually, is about having a script. Now, different moderators will have different approaches. So my serving suggestion in the book is that you do actually have a script. And there are reasons for that, not just to remind you what your questions are, or anything, but to keep you on time, really keep you tight on time, because that's part of your job, is to start well and finish bang on time, so you serve your audience really well. And really, for me, a script is a comfort blanket in case I lose my mind. I'm perimenopausal. I sometimes can't actually remember any words. So remembering people's names and things like that is a real hazard. So I tend to write everything down and sod it. It's on my knee during a panel discussion. That's fine. So let me just share with you a couple of ideas about how you set out your script. And you do it in your own way, or you could follow it in this way. I tend to go the whole hog. I tend to do the whole title, the date, the venue, the location, and all of the detail that follows. So let's look at that. I write down the running order. If there's other stuff going on, I want to know what that is. Just at a glance, we're all busy people. We tend to have a lot of information to deal with. Remembering what time my panel discussion is starting or what's on before isn't easy. So I always make it really simple for myself and helpful for myself to do that. I bold it and say, yeah, I'm on at 8:20. So make sure I've been for a wee before then. It's just simple stuff like that, making sure I'm back in the room for that time. And then I just really begin to dive into what time, what's happening at what time. So 8:20, I'm starting and I'm saying thanks to Tony for introducing me. And then I'm off. I know it's my show then, and it's where I'm off to. And then really quite simply, I page number things. And I put the number in the top right-hand corner, because if you've got a script on your lap and you're in a Boris Johnson muddle with your paperwork, you might not see the page number down underneath your arm perhaps, or you're holding it and you're covering it. So top right-hand corner, little cheeky tip there, dead simple. And then I put down my topics for discussion, not the specific questions that I'm going to ask, but more like questions that I can use and just come up with on the day. So I wouldn't actually read those out loud. I'd glance at them while someone was speaking and go, right, okay, next I want to ask about when should a business owner think about seeking finance, but I'll let them go on a bit first, and then I'll jump in with that, and maybe I'll say it in a different way. I wouldn't ever share my questions with panelists, because they might end up preparing really diligently to answer that question. I tend to keep it broad. And interestingly, what you can do in your script is something that I would forget to do if I didn't make a note to myself, is just trail ahead to the fact that there is an opportunity for questions in a little bit, like I did just now, actually. And then finally, if you do have a bit of a memory problem and you are getting to the end, you want to know what time you're out. You want to know who was on the panel, so you can say thank you to them. The names are at the beginning of the panel discussion. Otherwise, you'd have to go all the way back. Go, hang on a minute, thanks. And there's nothing worse, is there, than that moment of going, so I'd like to say a big thank you to, and then your brain goes empty. Some people, yay, you don't want that to happen. So I support myself really heavily with all of that. On a Zoom moderation situation, what I would aim to do is take that script and I would just make it really narrow, right under your camera lens. So you're looking at the camera lens most of the time, but you've made your script into like an auto cue that you can scroll up. So it's just on a Word document underneath your camera lens, rather than having it printed off on paper. So you're looking over here. Okay. So that was my number 2 tip. And then my number 3 tip is to step into this role and be the leader. Be the ringleader, if you like, of the circus, or ringmaster of the circus, because your panelists are often nervous and they're looking to you to be in charge. So be in charge and make it your show and run it how you like. And that's something that you'd give yourself, is the permission to do that. So 3 top tips. My goodness, there are a whole load more in here. A couple of chapters for the moderators, how to prepare so you don't screw up, and how to perform so you don't screw up. So a couple of important chapters for moderators. And then we have the first book prize draw. Shall we do that now? Are you ready? Are you standing by your beds? The IKEA utensil holder. And the winner is Laura Haig. Laura Haig, well done. Very good. Everyone's giving me a round of applause. You've done nothing but just appear. So you've now got a copy of this. You don't need to buy one. So well done, Laura. I hope you chuffed with that. Will you get in touch with us and let you know your address? Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on. Panelists, top tips. I'm going to rattle through these because we're going to hear a lot more from the panelists in our panel discussion in a moment. But first of all, the big one that I think is of value to panelists is to work out your airtime. It's possibly something you haven't considered before, is to work out how long you might have as a team player on that panel. So say we've got 30 minutes and there are 4 panelists and there's a moderator. So there's 5 people to do some speaking at some point. Can anyone put in the chat box straight away what 30 divided by 5 is? I think it's around 6. It might be 6. Thanks. Okay, Esther, brilliant. 6-ish. Yeah, okay. So you've got 6 minutes. You've just got 6 minutes, which is no time at all. So when you know that, that can help inform your preparation. Now, I know that people go really into prep and they might go, oh, I've got a panel tomorrow. I've been preparing all night or all day. I've been spending all my time preparing. But why? Because if you've only got 6 minutes to say some stuff, just prepare a few really good points and maybe expect to say half of them. You never know what might happen. Okay, so that's my top tip, is to think about your airtime. And then the preparation should include some interesting stuff to say, but really think about examples. So a time when. Now, a lot of panel discussions are issues-based, like just talking about topics. They can become a bit of a talking shop. But if you prepare some examples, that's when a panelist, for me, becomes really memorable and the audience really listens, because we're all nosy and we want to know about your experience or your example of a time when, or this happened to me, or 3 years ago I didn't know about this and now I do and I learned it because, or a client said to me last week that this is happening. Bring it alive, bring your point alive with an example, and they take a bit of time to fashion. So do pay attention to how many examples you're putting in there, because they're invaluable. They really are. And then finally, top tip number 3 is look into the lens when you're online. So when you're on a stage, you're naturally probably going to be drawn to the moderator who's asking you a question. You might also be interacting with the other panelists and giving them eye contact. And then when you're feeling a little bit more confident, you probably look at the audience and involve them as well. But when you're online, where are you going to look? And there's only really one place to look, and that's into the camera. And really, there's only ever one person listening or watching an online event because they're at home or in their office. So it's quite intimate. So you don't need to be the big broadcaster amplifying your message and being larger than life. But you can have quite an intimate relationship with your audience member by looking into the lens. So those are 3 top tips on how to be a panelist. And of course, there are more in here. We're going to pull another winner out now. Okay, so let's see who that might be. In the IKEA receptacle or tinsel. Has everyone got one of these? I think we all have, haven't we? I think this might be from my student days. Right, okay, so the winner is, oh, I can't read that. It's written in handwriting. Okay, the winner is Jane O'Berg. Jane O'Berg, lovely, lovely, lovely. You are there. That's good. Jane O'Berg. Jane, email us your address and we'll get a signed copy off to you.